This 7-step laziness system boosts results 2x. I once spent 90 minutes staring at my laptop trying to force myself to be productive. But when I finally gave up and took a nap, I woke up with the solution I needed. That's when I realized something. Our obsession with constant work is actually making us less productive. In this video, I'm going to show you the science behind what I call strategic laziness, a counterintuitive approach that helped me double my results while working fewer hours, like getting off a hamster wheel to actually move forward. If you've been grinding away but still feel stuck, this 7-step system might transform your productivity. Why traditional hustle culture is failing us. What if everything we've been taught about productivity is actually making us less productive? You know, we've all heard it a million times. Work harder, hustle more, sleep when you're dead. The grind never stops, right? This whole idea that success comes from pushing ourselves to the absolute limit has become like gospel in our culture. Think about it. How many social media posts have you seen glamorizing the 4 a.m. wake-up call or the entrepreneur working 100-hour weeks? There's this belief that's been drilled into our heads that the path to success is paved with sacrifice, suffering, and basically giving up everything else in your life. I used to buy into this completely. I'd wake up super early, power through the day on caffeine, work straight through lunch, and stay up late answering emails. I was proud of my packed schedule and how busy I always was. Being exhausted somehow felt like a badge of honor. About 2 years ago, I was working on launching a new project. I was putting in 12-plus-hour days, 7 days a week. I was convinced that if I just worked hard enough, everything would come together. But instead of making progress, I hit this weird wall. I'd sit at my computer, staring at the screen, and just nothing. My brain felt like mush. Tasks that should have taken me 30 minutes were taking hours. I was making silly mistakes. The quality of my work plummeted. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this. Maybe I didn't want it badly enough. But honestly, that wasn't it at all. I was experiencing what scientists call cognitive fatigue. Basically, my brain was overworked to the point of ineffectiveness. This personal experience aligns perfectly with what research has consistently shown. Stanford University studies demonstrate that productivity sharply declines when people work more than 50 hours a week. And after 55 hours, productivity drops so much that additional time becomes pointless. Similarly, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, found that countries with the longest working hours often have the lowest productivity per hour worked, while countries like Norway and Denmark, which prioritize work-life balance, show higher productivity. You see, our brains aren't designed for constant focus. They're not machines that can run 24/7 with just more fuel. The human brain evolved to work in pulses, alternating between periods of focus and recovery. When we ignore this biological reality, we're fighting against our own nature. It's like trying to supercharge an engine by continuously flooding it with fuel. Eventually, you'll drown the system and cause a breakdown rather than improve performance. That's exactly what happens with our cognitive abilities when we push beyond healthy limits. Research from the University of Illinois found that brief diversions from a task dramatically improved people's ability to focus for prolonged periods. Our attention spans naturally diminish over time when we try to maintain continuous focus, but taking short breaks helps reset our attention and improves performance. This makes total sense when you understand cognitive load theory, developed by psychologist John Sweller in the 1980s. The theory explains that our working memory, where we process information, has a limited capacity. When we overload it by working too long or juggling too many tasks, our performance suffers significantly. Think about your brain like a muscle. If you went to the gym and tried to lift weights continuously for 8 hours, you wouldn't get stronger. You'd injure yourself. Your muscles need periods of stress followed by recovery to grow. Your brain works the same way. The statistics on burnout are alarming. A Gallup study found that about 2/3 of full-time workers experience burnout on the job. And research from the American Institute of Stress shows that job stress costs U.S. companies over $300 billion annually in absenteeism, turnover, diminished productivity, and medical costs. What's striking is how we've normalized this unhealthy approach to work. We've created a competition about who can sacrifice the most, sleep the least, and work the longest hours. We treat exhaustion like a prerequisite for success, when science clearly shows it's holding us back. There's an eye-opening study from Microsoft Japan that tested a 4-day workweek and found that productivity jumped by 40%. Working 20% less time but getting more done completely contradicts what hustle culture promotes. So why do we keep pushing ourselves beyond our limits? I think a big part is that being busy has become a status symbol. When someone asks how you're doing and you say so busy, there's almost a weird pride in it. Saying you have free time or that you're well rested almost feels like admitting failure in today's culture. Plus, hours worked is easy to measure. You can see someone at their desk. But actual productivity, the value created, is harder to track. So we default to equating hours with output, despite research consistently showing there's not a direct relationship. When I finally admitted that the 12-hour days weren't sustainable or effective, I started experimenting with different approaches. I limited my focused work to 5 to 6 hours a day, took actual breaks, and protected my weekends. And you know what happened? My output increased. The quality of my work improved dramatically, and I felt so much better. A study published in the Harvard Business Review confirmed this, finding that requiring time off actually improved productivity and creativity among consultants. The truth is, traditional hustle culture fails us because it fundamentally misunderstands human performance. It treats us like machines when we're biological organisms with natural cycles of energy and recovery. Understanding this background is essential because it sets the stage for a completely different approach to productivity, one that works with our biology rather than against it, allowing us to achieve more meaningful results with less struggle and burnout. What is strategic laziness? When we treat ourselves like machines instead of humans, we burn out. But what if the solution isn't just working less? What if it's being strategically lazy? You might think laziness is your biggest productivity enemy, but it could actually be your secret weapon. I know what you're thinking. Lazy is basically a dirty word in our culture. When we hear someone being called lazy, it's never a compliment, right? We've been programmed to believe that success requires nonstop grinding, and anyone who isn't constantly busy must be slacking off. This mindset is so deeply embedded in our society that we often feel guilty for taking breaks or finding easier ways to get things done. Strategic laziness means being incredibly intentional with your energy and focus. It's about asking, what's the simplest way to achieve extraordinary results? Instead of, how can I look busy for 8 hours straight? It's about working smarter, not harder. Think about it like this. If you had to move a heavy boulder, would you try to push it uphill with your bare hands, or would you look for a lever? The person who immediately starts pushing might seem hardworking, but the person who takes a minute to find a lever is being smart. That's strategic laziness in action. This concept has powerful validation from top performers. Bill Gates famously said, "I choose a lazy person to do a hard job, because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it." Gates recognized that people naturally inclined toward efficiency often innovate better solutions, focusing their efforts where they'll have the greatest impact rather than working hard for work's sake. There's an important distinction between types of laziness. Bad laziness is avoiding responsibilities, skipping important work, and letting things fall apart. This leads to stress, poor results, and wasted time playing catch-up later. Good laziness, or strategic laziness, is being thoughtful about where you put your energy. It's automating repetitive tasks, eliminating unnecessary work, and focusing your attention on what actually moves the needle. You can see strategic laziness at work in innovative companies today. Netflix revolutionized entertainment by creating a streaming service that eliminated physical stores and shipping disks. Tesla sells cars directly to consumers, removing an entire layer of complexity while improving customer experience. These aren't shortcuts, they're smarter paths. Productivity experts are embracing this approach too. Tiffany Carter promotes a lazy success system that helps people achieve more while working less. Her approach focuses on energy management rather than time management, aiming for better results with minimal effort. One core principle of strategic laziness is the 80-20 rule, or Pareto principle. This suggests that roughly 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts. Strategic laziness means identifying that critical 20% and prioritizing it above everything else. By focusing on high-impact tasks and eliminating or delegating low-impact activities, you can dramatically improve your results without increasing your workload. Some experts advocate for an anti-productivity system, aligning work with your natural rhythms instead of forcing yourself to work according to arbitrary schedules. Wake up naturally if you're not a morning person. Work when your brain is most receptive. Take breaks that allow your mind to process information in the background. When you're strategically lazy, you constantly ask, is there a simpler way? Do I need to do this at all? Could someone or something else handle this better? These questions lead to innovations large and small, from email templates that save daily minutes to completely reimagined approaches to problems. The beauty of strategic laziness is that it produces better work. When you're not spreading yourself thin across many tasks, you can give full attention to what matters most. When you're not exhausted from overwork, your thinking is clearer and more creative. When you eliminate unnecessary steps, you reduce errors and miscommunications. I've experienced this personally. I used to pride myself on answering emails at all hours, attending every meeting, and staying busy constantly. But I noticed that during weeks when I had less time available, I actually accomplished more. I started experimenting with strategic laziness by tracking my time use and was shocked to discover how much went to low-impact activities. I began ruthlessly eliminating unnecessary meetings, setting up systems for recurring tasks, and building regular breaks into my day. The result wasn't just better work-life balance. My output improved dramatically. The hardest part was dealing with the guilt. I'd been conditioned to believe that if I wasn't constantly busy, I wasn't working hard enough. It took time to recognize that effectiveness is about results, not effort. Strategic laziness doesn't mean cutting corners on important work. It means being thoughtful about where you invest your limited energy and attention. It means designing systems that make your work easier rather than priding yourself on doing things the hard way. It means recognizing that your value comes from your results, not from the number of hours you put in or how stressed you look while doing it. The science behind working less to achieve more. That system of working smarter, not harder, isn't just philosophical. It's literally wired into your biology. Those moments when your focus suddenly drops aren't character flaws or signs of laziness. They're part of a natural brain cycle that elite performers have learned to leverage instead of fight against. Your brain naturally operates in 90 to 120-minute cycles throughout the day, shifting between high-energy focus and periods where it needs recovery. Scientists call these ultradian rhythms, your body's internal power management system. Think of them like your smartphone battery. It starts at 100%, gradually depletes during use, and needs recharging periods to function optimally. When you try to maintain constant focus for hours, you're fighting against your own biology. I used to think I was bad at focusing when I'd hit that afternoon wall. Maybe you've experienced it too. You're cruising along productively, then suddenly you can't string two thoughts together. You grab another coffee, power through, and feel even worse afterward. This wasn't random concentration failure. It was my brain signaling it needed a recovery period. During the high-energy phase of your ultradian rhythm, your brain is primed for focus and productivity. You're alert, creative, and process information efficiently. But after about 90 minutes, your brain shifts into recovery mode, where it needs about 20 to 30 minutes of lower frequency activity. This is documented biological science, not theory. Most work environments completely ignore these natural cycles. We're expected to maintain the same focus from 9 to 5 with maybe a lunch break. That's expecting your phone to stay at 100% all day without charging. It simply doesn't work that way. This scientific insight explains why research on top performers shows something surprising. According to researcher Anders Ericsson, the best performers across fields, from athletes to musicians, practice in specific ways. They use intense, focused bursts followed by deliberate recovery periods. They're instinctively working with their ultradian rhythms, not against them. Psychologists have found that willpower functions as a limited resource that depletes with use. Every time you force focus when your brain signals for a break, you're draining your self-control reserves. When those resources get low, you become more likely to procrastinate or make poor decisions. This connects directly to anxiety. Research shows that temporary situational anxious feelings predict procrastination. We feel more anxious when forcing productivity during our natural recovery periods. The breaks we often feel guilty about are actually making us smarter. Studies show that strategic rest enhances neural connections and memory consolidation. Your brain isn't shutting down during breaks. It's processing information, making connections, and preparing for the next focus period. This explains why great ideas often come in the shower, while walking, or just after waking up. These aren't random inspirations. They're your brain working effectively in recovery mode. Strategic laziness means working with your biology instead of against it. Productivity isn't linear but cyclical, with multiple cycles throughout your day. The practical application is straightforward. Work in focused sprints of about 90 minutes. Then take a real break. Not checking your phone or switching tasks, actually giving your brain recovery time. Go for a short walk, stretch, or close your eyes and breathe for a few minutes. Research on cognitive load confirms this approach. One study found that combining different strategies for managing mental effort, using both physical and mental techniques, reduced cognitive strain and improved efficiency. Giving your brain different ways to process information and recover makes working easier. When you align with these natural cycles, you often accomplish more in less time. It feels counterintuitive. How can working less produce more? It's like driving. You'll travel further by alternating between acceleration and coasting than by flooring the gas pedal until you run out of fuel. After implementing this approach, I noticed not only getting more done but producing higher quality work. Problems that seemed impossible during marathon sessions became clear after short breaks. Creative ideas flowed more easily, and I wasn't completely exhausted at day's end. Most productivity advice ignores this science. We're told to push through and hustle harder. But that advice works against how our brains function. Your productivity isn't measured by time spent working, but by results produced. If you can produce better results in less time by working with your brain's natural cycles, that's the smarter approach. This isn't just about feeling better, though that's beneficial. It's about optimizing your brain's performance cycles for maximum output. Elite performers understand this instinctively. They recognize that recovery isn't wasted time. It's essential to the performance cycle. Your brain will take recovery periods whether you plan for them or not. Without scheduled breaks, they'll manifest as distraction, procrastination, and reduced function. Wouldn't you rather control when and how those breaks happen? The evidence for working less to achieve more is clear. Your brain has natural cycles of performance and recovery. Willpower needs replenishing. Strategic breaks improve problem-solving and creativity. The highest performers in every field use this pattern of intense focus, followed by recovery. Strategic laziness versus procrastination. Spot the difference. Now here's where we need to get real. That whole work smarter, not harder approach we've been talking about isn't just some clever excuse to do nothing. There's actually a critical difference between being strategically lazy and just plain procrastinating, and mixing them up could be why you're not seeing results. Look, we've all been there. You're taking a break from a project and suddenly 3 hours have disappeared into the YouTube vortex. Was that strategic laziness? Or did you just get sucked into procrastination without realizing it? The psychology behind procrastination is fascinating, and it's more complex than simple laziness. When you procrastinate, you're voluntarily delaying important tasks, even though you know there will be negative consequences. It's a complex behavioral pattern driven by anxiety, perfectionism, and poor self-regulation. Think about the last time you put off something important. What was really going on? Maybe you were afraid you wouldn't do it perfectly, or maybe the task felt overwhelming. That's classic procrastination, emotionally driven avoidance. Strategic laziness operates differently. It's about intentionally optimizing your work based on your energy patterns. You're deliberately choosing when and how to tackle tasks for maximum efficiency. Here's what this looks like in real life. Imagine two people with the same big project due next week. The procrastinator keeps putting it off because they're anxious about it, then pulls an all-nighter right before the deadline, producing rushed work while feeling incredibly stressed. The strategically lazy person breaks the project into chunks, works on it during their high-energy hours, automates repetitive parts, and finishes early with better results. Same deadline, completely different approach and outcome. Research published in Health Psychology found that chronic procrastination links to higher stress levels and lower life satisfaction. When you're constantly putting things off, you create low-level anxiety that follows you everywhere. Strategic laziness, however, improves your results. You work when your brain is at its best, eliminate unnecessary steps, and focus on what really matters. The difference in motivation is crucial. Procrastination is reactive. You're running away from negative emotions. Strategic laziness is proactive. You're making calculated decisions to conserve energy and focus on high-impact tasks. Consider this example. You have an important email to write. If you're procrastinating, you might check social media, organize your desk, or suddenly remember you need to clean out the fridge. Anything to avoid writing that email because you're anxious about it. But if you're being strategically lazy, you might decide to write the email tomorrow morning when you're fresher, use a template to make it easier, or decide a quick phone call would be more efficient than writing an email at all. This distinction shows up in research too. Studies reveal that procrastination creates a vicious cycle where avoiding tasks makes your anxiety worse, leading to more avoidance. Like quicksand, the more you struggle, the deeper you sink. Strategic laziness feels like healthy eating. It might require discipline now, but you feel better in the long run. Procrastination resembles junk food, satisfying in the moment but awful later. Bill Gates famously said, "I will always choose a lazy person to do a hard job because he or she will find an easy way to do it." He meant people who look for efficient solutions, strategic laziness at its best. Post-it notes exemplify this principle in innovation. They came from a scientist's approach to a problem. He wanted bookmarks that wouldn't fall out of his hymnal at church, so he used an adhesive that was considered a failure because it didn't stick permanently. That's strategic laziness, finding the simplest solution rather than overcomplicating it. Most of us do both at different times. The key is recognizing which one you're doing so you can shift to a more strategic approach. What makes this challenging is that they can look similar from the outside. Understanding the intention and outcome helps distinguish between them. Here's a side-by-side comparison to help you identify your behavior. Procrastination, strategic laziness. You feel increasingly anxious the longer you delay a task. You've planned specific work times based on your peak energy. You mindlessly scroll through social media instead of working. You've deliberately automated or simplified tasks to save time. You find urgent distractions to avoid important work. You've assessed tasks and prioritized them by importance. You're driven by fear and avoidance. You're driven by intentional efficiency. Your approach pushes work into the future. Your approach reduces overall workload. Your stress increases with each decision to delay. Your stress decreases as you make strategic choices. You follow the path of least resistance. You make conscious decisions based on efficiency. These indicators can help you honestly evaluate whether you're making strategic choices or simply procrastinating. By regularly checking your behavior against this list, you can catch yourself procrastinating and redirect toward more strategic approaches. So ask yourself, are you avoiding tasks because they make you anxious, or are you strategically planning when to do them? Does your approach actually reduce your workload or just postpone it? The answers will reveal whether you're practicing the strategic Hack 1 and 2, automation mastery and energy management. Strategic laziness isn't just about recognizing what to avoid, it's about building systems that work while you don't. Those lazy innovators we mentioned earlier have discovered something powerful. When you combine automation with your natural energy patterns, you can literally double your results while cutting your effort in half. Let's start with a shocking fact. The average person wastes about 3 hours every day on tasks that machines could handle in minutes. Think about that. Those little repetitive things you hate doing might be the exact tasks holding back your productivity. This is where our first 2 hacks come into play. Hack 1. Automation Mastery. Automation Mastery focuses on identifying and eliminating repetitive work from your life completely. McKinsey reported that 2/3 of companies started automating business processes in 2020, up from 57% in 2018. The effectiveness of automation extends beyond corporate environments to transform your personal workflow as well. Here's how to start. Look for tasks you do more than once a week that follow the same steps each time. These are your automation targets. Data entry, file organization, email responses, social media posting. These are all prime candidates. Remember, if you're doing the same task more than once, you should be thinking about how to automate it. A recent survey shows that 65% of knowledge workers feel significantly less stressed after automating their repetitive tasks. This directly impacts productivity while improving well-being. Consider this. Data errors cost U.S. businesses $600 billion annually. Automation simultaneously saves time and reduces mistakes. Take Sarah, a marketing manager who spent hours each week manually transferring campaign data between platforms. After implementing Zapier to automate these transfers, she reclaimed nearly 7 hours weekly. The first morning I didn't have to do that manual data entry, I actually felt physical relief, she shared. I used those hours for strategic planning instead, which led to our most successful campaign quarter ever. Other practical examples abound. Calendar automation tools can handle the back-and-forth emails when scheduling meetings. Content schedulers can post across multiple platforms simultaneously. These tools serve as sanity savers in our increasingly complex digital workflows. To conduct your own automation audit, track every task you perform for 3 days. Mark each one that feels repetitive or boring. Then ask, could a computer do this instead of me? For each affirmative answer, find a suitable automation tool. The most commonly automated tasks include adding data to spreadsheets, inventory management, sending messages, uploading files, managing email subscribers, and creating contacts. Remember Bill Gates' philosophy about choosing lazy people for difficult jobs? They'll find the most efficient solution. When you automate, you embody this mindset, solving problems permanently rather than repeatedly doing the same work. Hack 2. Energy Management. Automation alone, however powerful, isn't sufficient. Energy management complements it perfectly. Most people organize their day around time, but this approach overlooks a crucial reality. Your energy fluctuates throughout the day, making some hours worth twice as much as others for productivity. Instead of fighting against your natural rhythms, align your work with them. Throughout my career, I've constantly sought ways to save time and eliminate repetitive work. This mindset recognizes that small changes compound into significant results over time. To implement energy management, begin by tracking when you naturally feel most focused and creative. For most people, this happens in 90-minute windows. Some peak in the morning, others in the afternoon or evening. There's no universal answer, only your personal pattern. After identifying your peak energy periods, protect them fiercely. Schedule your most important, creative, and challenging work during these times. Reserve administrative tasks, emails, and meetings for your lower energy periods. Many professionals get this completely backward. They check email first thing in the morning when their brain is fresh, then attempt creative work when already drained from meetings. By reversing this approach, you can accomplish in 4 focused hours what might otherwise take an entire day. To map your energy effectively, rate your focus and energy levels hourly on a scale of 1 to 10 for a week. Look for patterns in your scores. These consistent high-energy periods are your productivity gold mines when strategic laziness yields maximum results. The synergy between automation and energy management creates extraordinary outcomes. Use automation to handle tasks during your low-energy periods, freeing your high-energy times for needle-moving work. The 2024 McKinsey Global Survey indicates that 65% of companies now regularly use generative AI, nearly double from just a year ago. because of demonstrable productivity increases. The 80-20 rule, Pareto principle, suggests that 80% of our results come from 20% of our efforts. By automating the low-impact 80% of tasks, you can concentrate your energy on the high-impact 20%. Imagine eliminating 3 hours of low-value work through automation, then optimizing your remaining hours by matching tasks to energy levels. Your accomplishments and well-being would transform dramatically. Innovation consistently emerges from inconvenience. Throughout history, breakthroughs have appeared when people grew frustrated enough with inefficient processes to create better alternatives. This apparent laziness actually reflects intolerance for wasted time and energy. When driving fresh thinking in your life or business, identify the frictions that most irritate you, then focus on permanently resolving those problems. The goal isn't comprehensive automation, it's strategic automation of the right tasks. Begin with the most repetitive, time-consuming, and frankly boring elements of your workflow. Each automated task creates a compound effect, freeing mental energy for higher-value activities. Hack 3 and 4. Task elimination and intelligent procrastination. After you've automated the repetitive stuff, you're left with everything else on your plate. But here's where it gets interesting. What if procrastination, when used strategically, could actually make you more productive? Studies show that 70% of tasks we stress about completing either resolve themselves or become irrelevant if we just wait a bit. Let's talk about the counterintuitive art of doing less to achieve more. Think about your to-do list for a second. If you're like most people, it's probably packed with stuff you think you absolutely need to get done. But what if I told you that half of those tasks don't actually need to be done at all? This is where Hack 3 comes in. Task elimination. This approach focuses on figuring out which things shouldn't be done in the first place, fundamentally reducing your workload rather than just completing it faster. The 4D framework transforms how you manage your tasks. Instead of automatically assuming everything needs your attention, you run each task through a simple filter. Do, delegate, defer, or delete. It's like having a bouncer for your to-do list, only letting in the VIPs that deserve your time and energy. Let me break it down for you. Do is for tasks that truly need your personal attention and add significant value. Delegate is for tasks that need to be done but don't require your specific skills. Defer is for tasks that aren't urgent now but might be important later. And delete is for tasks that, frankly, don't need to be done by anyone, ever. I started applying this to my weekly schedule and was shocked at how many commitments were pointless. One Tuesday morning check-in had been happening for months without generating any actionable outcomes. Eliminating it gave me back an hour every week. That's 52 hours a year from one simple decision. The key is to conduct a value analysis on your recurring commitments. Go through your calendar and ask yourself, what specific value does this add to my goals? Be brutally honest. For each meeting or task, question whether the output justifies the time investment. You'll be surprised how many activities fail this simple test. This isn't about being difficult, it's about being intentional. Remember, every yes to something unnecessary is a no to something potentially important. When you eliminate low-value activities, you're being strategic with your most precious resource, your attention. Now let's talk about Hack 4, intelligent procrastination. While task elimination removes unnecessary work entirely, intelligent procrastination is about optimal timing for decisions and actions. There's a crucial difference between mindless procrastination, avoiding work because you're anxious, and intelligent procrastination, strategically delaying decisions until you have better information. Making decisions too early often means making them with incomplete information. When you intentionally delay certain decisions, you give yourself time to gather more data, let solutions emerge naturally, or sometimes watch problems resolve themselves entirely. Remember that Stanford marshmallow experiment about delayed gratification? The same principle applies to decision-making. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is nothing at all. Here's a personal example. Last year, I faced a major decision about investing in expensive new recording equipment. Instead of rushing into it, I deliberately waited 2 weeks. During that time, a new technology was announced that was both better and cheaper than what I'd been considering. Had I made the decision immediately, I would have spent thousands more for inferior equipment. By waiting, I made a better informed choice that saved money and improved quality. The anti-productivity system describes this approach perfectly. It's about letting ideas marinate in your subconscious and then working in focused bursts when either inspiration or deadline pressure hits. This approach often leads to better outcomes than forcing premature decisions. There's also a practical component. Not all problems need solving. Sometimes when you delay addressing an issue, it resolves itself or becomes irrelevant. Think about how many emails become meaningless if you wait a few days before responding. I'm not suggesting you procrastinate on everything. The key word is intelligent. You need to distinguish between tasks that benefit from delay and those that don't. Anything with firm deadlines or involving other people's time usually doesn't qualify. But strategic decisions and creative challenges often benefit from marination time. To practice intelligent procrastination, when a new task lands on your plate, ask yourself, what would happen if I didn't address this for 48 hours? If the answer is not much, consider scheduling it for later. About 30% of these items become unnecessary by the time you circle back to them. These two hacks work together beautifully. Think of your workflow like a cluttered room. Task elimination is removing furniture you don't need, while intelligent procrastination is deciding which items deserve the premium spots in your space. Together, they transform your approach from how can I get everything done to what's actually worth doing. Start with eliminating recurring meetings lacking clear outcomes, reports nobody reads, and tasks done out of habit. These are your low-hanging fruit for removal. Then apply intelligent procrastination to give yourself space to gather information, let your subconscious work on problems, and allow natural resolution. The beauty of these approaches is their focus on thoughtfulness rather than busyness. By questioning whether tasks deserve your attention and timing your decisions optimally, you create breathing room, space for your best thinking, unexpected opportunities, and genuine rest. Hack 5 and 6. System design and minimal viable effort. Decisions drain your mental battery faster than almost anything else. The average person makes about 35,000 choices daily, and each one takes a tiny bite of your brain power. What if you could cut that number in half? Your productivity would basically double overnight, right? That's exactly what system design and minimal viable effort can do for you. Let's be honest, most people approach productivity all wrong. They think that putting in more effort is the answer, grinding away hour after hour, making decision after decision. But high achievers understand, systems beat effort every time. The most successful people aren't working harder than everyone else. They're working smarter by creating frameworks that handle the heavy lifting for them. Think about it this way. When you wake up in the morning, do you spend mental energy deciding how to brush your teeth? Of course not. You have a system, a routine that's so automatic you barely think about it. Now imagine if everything in your work life could be that effortless. That's what Hack 5 is all about, system design. System design creates structured frameworks that minimize decision fatigue and streamline workflows. It's like building tiny productivity machines that run in the background while you focus on what really matters. Once set up, they keep working for you continuously. Look at batching similar tasks together. Instead of checking email 50 times throughout the day, I batch all my email processing into 2 30-minute blocks. This eliminates dozens of small decisions and interruptions daily. Templates also transform productivity. I have them for everything from meeting agendas to project briefs, starting each task with 80% of the work already complete. The key is identifying which parts of your workflow need systemization. Look for friction points, those moments when you hesitate, feel stressed, or waste time making the same decisions repeatedly. I noticed I was spending too much time figuring out what to work on each morning, so I created a simple prioritization system. 3 MITs, most important tasks, identified the night before, with specific time blocks already assigned. Now, when I sit down to work, there's no decision to make. I just start on MIT 1. While everyone else runs around frantically making decisions all day, you're calmly following your systems and getting twice as much done. Decision fatigue is a real psychological phenomenon where decision quality deteriorates after extended decision-making sessions. Systems combat this by creating frameworks that minimize choices for routine tasks, saving mental energy for strategic, creative decisions that truly matter. Now, let's talk about Hack 6, minimal viable effort. This principle is about identifying the smallest possible action needed to make meaningful progress. Imagine building a brick wall. The overwhelming approach is staring at the finished wall in your mind, feeling paralyzed by the enormity of the task. Minimal viable effort says, just place one brick. Make it level, make it straight, then another. You're not thinking about the entire wall. You're mastering the placement of individual bricks, one at a time. Before long, you've built something substantial through these minimal, focused efforts. I experienced this breakthrough when launching my YouTube channel. I kept delaying because I thought I needed perfect lighting, audio, editing skills, and a content calendar for 6 months. Then I realized my minimal viable effort was simply recording a single short video on my phone about one topic I knew well. That first imperfect video taught me more than weeks of planning and gave me momentum to continue. Now, hundreds of videos later, I realized that first simple action was the most important one I took. You know the feeling when facing a huge project and you just can't start? That's because you're thinking about the mountain of effort required for completion. Minimal viable effort flips the script by asking, what's the tiniest step I could take that would still move me forward? For writing this script, my minimal viable effort wasn't write the entire video. It was jot down 3 bullet points for the opening. That tiny action got me started. And once in motion, continuing became much easier. This connects directly to the 80-20 rule we discussed earlier. By identifying the critical 20% of actions that deliver 80% of results, you can focus your energy precisely where it matters most. When I started making YouTube videos, I spent hours agonizing over tiny editing details. Now I have a system focusing only on what viewers actually care about: clear audio, good pacing, and valuable content. I've eliminated all the perfectionist tweaking that wasn't improving the experience. My videos take half the time to produce but perform just as well or better. Minimal viable effort forces you to prioritize what actually matters. Ask yourself, if I could only do one thing on this project today, what would move the needle the most? That's your minimal viable effort. When you combine system design with minimal viable effort, something magical happens. You create streamlined workflows focused only on what matters most. Instead of working harder, you work smarter, getting better results with less effort. First, identify the 20% of your work that delivers 80% of your results. Then, create simple systems to handle those high-impact activities efficiently. Finally, eliminate or minimize everything else. Most people spend their days frantically putting out fires, making hundreds of small decisions, and spreading energy across too many tasks. But when you design systems that handle routine decisions automatically and focus your limited energy on minimal viable efforts that really matter, you become exponentially more productive. Hack 7. Strategic outsourcing and real-world success stories. So far, we've talked about optimizing your own efforts, but what about harnessing the power of other people to multiply your productivity? This is where our 7th and final hack comes in: strategic outsourcing. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how some people manage to accomplish seemingly impossible amounts of work? They're not superhuman. They've just mastered the art of letting go. While most of us stay trapped in the mindset that we need to do everything ourselves, top performers understand something fundamentally different. When I first started my content business, I insisted on handling everything personally, editing my own videos, managing my own emails, even designing my own graphics despite having zero design skills. The result? Endless 14-hour days and mediocre results across the board. Sound familiar? Strategic outsourcing is about being incredibly smart with your resources. It recognizes that your time and attention are your most valuable assets, and they should be reserved for the tasks only you can do. Let's break down how this works in practice. Strategic outsourcing means identifying tasks that others can do either better than you or at a lower cost than your time is worth. This could be anything from administrative work to customer service to specialized projects, basically anything that's taking you away from your highest value contributions. The first step is honestly evaluating which tasks truly require your personal touch. Most people massively overestimate this number. Ask yourself, is this something only I can do, or could someone else handle it with proper guidance? For most routine tasks, the answer is almost always the latter. Next comes calculating the actual value of your time. This isn't about what you earn hourly, but about opportunity cost. Here's a simple framework. Take your target annual income and divide it by 2,000, roughly the number of working hours in a year. That gives you your target hourly rate. For example, if your target income is $100,000, your hourly target is $50. If you can hire someone to handle your email management for $25 an hour, you're creating a 100% return on investment with every hour you reclaim. The world's most productive people operate on this principle. Elon Musk, despite running multiple billion-dollar companies, employs a productivity system that prioritizes high-impact decisions and strategic delegation. He concentrates his energy on critical tasks like long-term strategy and innovation, while delegating everything else to capable team members. Similarly, Tim Ferriss in The 4-Hour Workweek advocates eliminating time-wasting activities, automating processes, and delegating everything else. This allows him to focus exclusively on high-value activities while enjoying greater freedom. You don't need Musk's resources to implement this approach. Strategic outsourcing is scalable to any situation. Start with a virtual assistant for a few hours weekly to manage email and calendars. Use freelance platforms for specialized tasks like design or website updates. Delegate household chores through services or local help. Utilize automation tools for routine data tasks. Bring in specialized expertise instead of learning new skills yourself. The ROI becomes clear when you consider the results. In my business, hiring someone for video editing and administrative tasks didn't just free up time. My content quality improved because I could focus exclusively on creating rather than technical details. My business grew faster because I concentrated on strategy instead of inbox management. What's particularly effective is how successful outsourcers systematically identify what to delegate. They regularly audit their activities by asking, is this the highest and best use of my time? If not, they find someone else to handle it. This shift doesn't happen overnight. Most of us have psychological barriers around delegation, thinking, no one will do it as well as I would, or it takes too much time to explain. These concerns usually aren't grounded in reality. Consider my client Sarah, who runs a growing marketing agency. She was working 70-hour weeks handling everything from client pitches to invoice processing. After implementing strategic outsourcing, she delegated her administrative work, content creation, and basic client communication to a small team. Within 3 months, her business revenue increased by 40%, while her personal work hours dropped to 45 per week. The key? She focused exclusively on high-level strategy and client relationships, the areas where her unique skills created the most value. Technology is making this process even easier. Forward-thinking companies are investing heavily in AI and automation across functions, from customer service to finance. This creates more opportunities to delegate work and focus human attention where it matters most. If you're not sure where to start, track your activities for a week and identify tasks that, 1, you personally dislike doing, 2, don't require your specific expertise, 3, are repetitive or routine, 4, take significant time but don't directly contribute to your main goals. Begin with just one task and experiment. You'll likely be amazed at how much mental space you reclaim, not just in hours saved, but in freedom from the cognitive load of managing that task. The bottom line is this: if you want to scale your impact without scaling your hours, mastering strategic outsourcing is essential. The most productive people in the world are implementing your strategic laziness system. The most brilliant productivity system is useless if you can't get past the voice in your head saying, "You're being lazy." Let's be honest, switching from hustle culture to strategic laziness feels like breaking the rules at first. That uncomfortable feeling when you step away from your desk for a midday rest or decide not to tackle a low-value task? It's not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's actually evidence you're challenging deeply ingrained habits. I remember the first time I took a scheduled break during my peak productivity hours. My palms were literally sweating. I kept glancing at my phone thinking someone would somehow know I wasn't working myself to exhaustion. That's how powerful these cultural expectations can be. Implementing strategic laziness requires rewiring your entire relationship with work. The resistance comes from both within and without. Internally, that nagging voice of guilt tells you real professionals power through or success requires sacrifice, conditioning reinforced by years of equating busyness with importance. Externally, you'll face reactions like a coworker raising an eyebrow and asking, "You took a nap?" during work hours? These challenges can make you question your approach, even when results speak for themselves. So how do you implement this system without feeling like you're committing what one convert called a professional sin? Let me walk you through a practical 3-step approach that has worked for thousands. Step 1. Identify and automate repetitive tasks in your workflow. Thoroughly examine every recurring task you perform. Make a list of everything you do more than once a week, then ask, could this be simplified or eliminated entirely? For example, a marketing manager I worked with realized she was manually copying data between platforms daily. By setting up a simple automation integration, she reclaimed nearly 5 hours every week. That's 260 hours a year. Step 2. Manage your energy by aligning work with your natural cycles. Track your energy levels hourly for a week. Notice when you naturally feel focused, creative, or lethargic. Then restructure your schedule to match high-value work with high-energy periods. For instance, if you're mentally sharpest between 9 to 11 a.m., tackle complex problems then, not check email or attend routine meetings. Step 3. Be ruthlessly selective about where you direct your attention. Regularly audit your commitments and focus exclusively on tasks that deliver meaningful impact. Ask yourself, if I could only accomplish 3 things today, which would move the needle most? Then protect your time for those priorities. One product manager I know increased his team's output by 40% simply by canceling half their meetings and replacing them with a daily written update. Implementation varies by work environment. In corporate settings, create templates for recurring deliverables or batch similar tasks into designated time blocks. One executive assistant convinced her department to implement no meeting Wednesdays for uninterrupted focus time. The productivity gains were so impressive that other departments followed suit. For entrepreneurs and freelancers, strategic laziness might mean outsourcing administrative tasks or setting clear boundaries with clients. A freelance designer doubled her income not by working more hours, but by eliminating lower-paying clients and energy-draining communications. She implemented power hours, 90-minute blocks of intense focus followed by substantial breaks, dramatically increasing her creative output. Even in structured environments like education or healthcare, these principles work. A high school teacher reorganized his grading to focus feedback on elements that actually improved student performance, cutting workload while enhancing learning outcomes. A nurse practitioner streamlined charting with templates for common conditions, saving hours while maintaining quality care. When doubt creeps in, tracking results becomes essential. Document outcomes that actually matter: completion times, error rates, client satisfaction, or revenue generated. When you can demonstrate that working differently produces better results, both internal guilt and external skepticism begin to fade. Facing pushback from colleagues who equate time with dedication? Frame strategic laziness as organizational improvement. Instead of "I'm trying to work less," explain you're optimizing workflows to maximize impact. Share data about how rest improves cognitive function or how focused work yields better results than multitasking. Propose a small experiment. Let me try this approach for 2 weeks, and we can compare my output to the previous fortnight. Many find the psychological barrier of guilt more challenging than practical implementation. We've been conditioned to believe constant effort equals virtue, making strategic rest feel like cheating. One professional described her first weeks as a guilt phase, where stepping away from her desk felt like betrayal. The key is reframing laziness itself. True laziness is continuing inefficient practices because you're too comfortable to change. Strategic laziness requires careful thought, planning, and courage to challenge norms. When guilt surfaces, remind yourself, I'm not avoiding work, I'm being intentional about where my energy goes. Start small with one principle that resonates most strongly. Maybe that's batching similar tasks, scheduling focused work during peak energy times, or automating one recurring process. As you see positive results, expand your approach. With consistent application, your relationship with work fundamentally changes. The quality of your output improves as you focus energy on what truly matters. The mental fog of constant busyness lifts, revealing clarity about priorities. Most importantly, you reclaim control over your time and attention, transforming from a passive participant in hustle culture to the architect of your own productive, sustainable work life. The organizational benefits of strategic laziness. Your transformation doesn't have to happen in isolation from your workplace. Did you know that major corporations are now designing entire work environments around these exact principles? The numbers are honestly shocking. Strategic laziness at the organizational level is projected to add $1.3 trillion to the global economy by 2030. I know what you're thinking. There's no way my boss would ever support me being lazy at work. But forward-thinking companies actively encourage these approaches. And it all starts with a fundamental shift in how work is measured. Results-only work environments, ROBE, is gaining serious traction in companies that want to stay competitive. ROE judges employees solely on what they accomplish, not how many hours they spend looking busy. It incorporates strategic laziness directly into company culture by prioritizing outcomes over time worked, aligning perfectly with the principles we've discussed throughout this video. I recently spoke with a product manager at a tech company that switched to a ROE model. She told me, it was weird at first. My team kept asking, is it really okay if we leave at 3 p.m. as long as our projects are on track? But within a month, our productivity numbers were through the roof. The team worked differently, focusing on results rather than appearing busy during arbitrary hours. This approach harnesses what we know about how humans actually work best. Companies using ROE give employees the freedom to work when they're naturally most productive, rather than forcing everyone into the same 9-to-5 schedule. The organizational benefits are remarkable. When employees control their schedules and work according to ultradian rhythms, burnout rates decrease dramatically. A consulting firm that implemented these work practices reported a 15% reduction in employee turnover, saving approximately $25 million in recruitment and training costs in just 1 year. A massive financial win for the company. Employee engagement improves significantly too. When people feel trusted to manage their own time and energy, their investment in work increases. A manufacturing company that adopted a flexible scheduling policy saw employee engagement scores jump by 22% in 6 months, leading to better customer service, higher quality work, and stronger company culture. Retention becomes a competitive advantage. One tech firm reported that after implementing AI-driven processes and focusing on results rather than hours, their retention rate for top performers improved by 35%. This matters tremendously in today's job market, where replacing skilled workers comes at an enormous cost. These approaches also spark innovation. When employees find smarter, easier ways to complete tasks, they naturally improve systems and processes. A marketing director who implemented strategic laziness principles told me, once we started focusing on results instead of hours, my team got creative. They built automation tools that cut our reporting time in half and developed templates that made our content creation process 3 times faster. They naturally started looking for ways to work smarter. Companies embracing these principles also respond faster to market changes. Organizations utilizing AI for decision-making report a 50% improvement in their speed to market, a substantial competitive advantage in today's business landscape. You might wonder, how do I convince my boss this isn't just me being lazy? Frame it in terms of business benefits, not personal preference. Focus on outcomes, not methods. Instead of saying, I want to work from home 2 days a week so I can sleep in, I've noticed I'm most productive on complex projects in the morning when there are fewer distractions. If I could work from home on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I believe I could improve my output on those strategic projects by at least 20%. Propose a small pilot program. I'd like to try batching all my meetings on Mondays and Wednesdays for the next month, leaving other days for focused work. I'll track my productivity metrics, and we can evaluate whether this approach improves my output. Track your results when implementing strategic laziness principles. Concrete improvements in performance make it harder for managers to argue with your methods. You can also reference how these approaches align with emerging workplace trends around AI and automation, where workers focus on high-value tasks while technology handles the rest. Let me share a concrete example. A customer service team at a mid-sized company struggled with burnout and high turnover. Their transformation began when the manager implemented strategic laziness principles by introducing AI chatbots for basic inquiries, restructuring schedules around energy management, creating an expertise-based case assignment system, and replacing daily reports with weekly outcome reviews. The results transformed their operation. Resolution times improved by 31%, customer satisfaction increased by 18%, and employee retention rose dramatically. The company saved money while improving service quality by working smarter, not harder. Similarly, a software development team consistently missed deadlines despite constant overtime. Their manager introduced focus days without meetings, created standardized templates for common functions, and structured work around 90-minute focused sessions followed by breaks. Within 3 months, they met deadlines while delivering higher quality code and working fewer total hours. These examples demonstrate how strategic laziness can transform organizational performance while improving employee well-being, proving that sometimes doing less is truly the path to achieving more. We've covered a lot of ground in this strategic laziness journey, but here's what I want you to remember most. Creating intentional space in your life for what truly matters is the ultimate goal. When you embrace strategic laziness, you make a profound choice to value quality over quantity, impact over activity. You give yourself permission to work in harmony with your natural rhythms instead of fighting against them. Don't try implementing everything at once. Pick just one hack that resonated with you today. Start there and watch as your relationship with work transforms into something more fulfilling